This month's podcast episodes are proudly sponsored by my own book, Bring Your Product Idea to Life. Have you ever had a great idea for a product? Or does creating a product to sell appeal to you? Where do you begin? How do you come up with a product idea? And if you have an idea, how do you know if it's even viable? In Bring Your Product Idea to Life, I take you through the process of creating your product step by step. From developing your product idea to finding suppliers and launching your product, we cover it all. The book includes advice on how to price your product, where to sell it, and how to find out if anyone will actually buy it. Designed to help you make real progress, Bring Your Product Idea to Life is both practical and motivational. Every chapter includes clear action steps so you know exactly what to do and when. This isn't just a book for reading, this is a book for doing. Bring Your Product Idea to Life is available via Amazon, on my website, and linked in the show notes for this episode. Welcome to the Bring Your Product Idea to Life podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're getting started selling products or if you'd like to create your own product to sell. I'm Vicky Weinberg, a product creation coach and Amazon expert. Every week, I share friendly, practical advice as well as inspirational stories from small businesses. Let's get started. Hi, so today on the podcast, I'm speaking to Serina El Mufti. Serina is the co-founder of the Dead Sea Co. The Dead Sea Co. infuses the Dead Sea's skin-boosting and therapeutic minerals with mindfulness, transforming everyday skincare into soul-enriching rituals. Serina is a co-founder of the business along with her siblings, which is something that we speak about in the interview today, as I thought that many of you, like me, would find it really interesting how to start and run a business working with your family. I found her insights into that really fascinating and useful. Serina also, of course, talks to us about the origins of her product, what inspired them to start their business, and also a lot about their brand ambassador program, which I found really interesting and something that I think could be really useful to lots of small businesses to consider. So I will stop talking now and would love to introduce you to Serina. So hi, Serina. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Can you please start by giving an introduction to yourself, your business, and what you sell?
Yes, of course. So my name's Serina. I'm one of the co-founders at the Dead Sea Co. We specialise in Dead Sea skincare and wellness products. We have a holistic approach to skincare. So we believe that, our overall wellness also impacts our skin health. So not only do we champion simple, effective and natural Dead Sea skincare, we by harnessing the skin boosting and therapeutic Dead Sea minerals, we also believe that you can transform your skincare routine into kind of more self-care moments, which ultimately impacts your overall well-being and then your skin health as well. And that's all kind of linked into, what inspired us, which was ultimately the Dead Sea, which I can talk about more.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about what inspired you. But I think that's great. That's such like a holistic view, if that's the right word.
Yeah, for sure, and that's that's our philosophy, and it kind of stems from the Dead Sea and the kind of spa rituals there. We are I set up the business with my brother and my sister, and we're half Jordanian, so spent a lot of time between Jordan and the UK and a lot of time at the Dead Sea. And what really kind of, struck us was not only how amazing your skin feels after you leave the Dead Sea, it's also how good you feel inside as well. So obviously most people know that at the Dead Sea, there's mineral rich mud and the therapeutic waters, but also it's the lowest point on earth. There's about 8% more oxygen there. You've got the sunshine, you've got the most stunning scenery, you've got, desert, mountains, and then with a stark contrast of like the salty lake, the glistening salty lake. So it's just the most beautiful place. And you kind of smother yourself in the mineral rich mud, and then you float effortlessly in the sea, or the lake, the salt lake, and it washes off and your skin is glowing and it's silky soft, but you also feel really good. And that's kind of why we want to bring that side into our products as well, because obviously the Dead Sea is a wellness tourist hotspot. It's even said that, the Egyptian Queen Cleopatra used to bathe in the mineral rich waters. So it's such the wellness side is such an important aspect, as well as the kind of mineral rich mud and salt. So.
Well, Thank you so much for explaining that. And, you've made me really want to go to Jordan now. I have to be honest, it sounds amazing. So what inspired you to actually start a business with your siblings? So I understand, the inspiration for the products, but what made you all decide, okay, this is something we want to do?
So I was living in London, had a career in sustainability in the city, and I had my first baby. And after that, I had really terrible postpartum skin issues and kind of stress-related rosacea. So obviously, being from Jordan and loving the Dead Sea, I was like, oh, I'm going to look for a Dead Sea mask. And I was really surprised that I couldn't find anything. Well, I'm really ingredient savvy and also really conscious about what I put on my skin. And obviously, after having my first baby, I was even more conscious about that. And I was just really surprised at the ingredients that I found in these Dead Sea masks. There was quite a lot of harsh preservatives. Some were mostly water, lots of fillers. And I couldn't, I was just really surprised because obviously being from Jordan and witnessing firsthand the most amazing skin benefits, I couldn't believe there wasn't someone championing that ingredient specifically, and really focusing on that ingredient and making sure that it was filled with other skin nourishing and loving ingredients as well. So that's kind of how it started, and also obviously the link to stress and skin health, and being a working mom, it's obviously very busy, and finding time for skincare and self-care it's not always easy. And I think that the last thing anybody wants sometimes is another thing to do on their list of things that they already have to do. And I think that after having I have 2 children now, I realized the importance of taking that 5 minutes, whatever that is, and just being a little bit more mindful in my own skincare routine, or actually everyday, routines, but bringing it into skincare is something that, we champion. But, we have these aromatherapy shower steamers, and the idea behind that is that, they've got the therapeutic essential oils in them. So you can turn your shower into a moment of self-care. And so instead of just, maybe running through all the list of things you have to do, you could turn that into like a mindful moment. And that can be anything, self-care is quite personal. So, for me, it could be, listening to my favorite music or a podcast, and someone else, it could be, breath work or a guided meditation. It's really what makes you feel good. And that ultimately will affect your overall wellness and therefore your skin health. So that's kind of how we like to look at it, and what kind of inspired us.
Oh, thank you for explaining that. That's all really nice. And I'm really surprised, as you were, that there wasn't a product or products on the market already. And I have to say, I think it's great how savvy you are at looking at ingredients and knowing what ingredients are in things, because I think a lot of us don't do that. I mean, I have to be really honest, it's only been in the last couple of years that I've got a bit more savvy on, okay, what's in my shampoo, what's in my moisturizer, and actually looking at ingredients. But I think a lot of us for a long time just kind of look at the benefits, or the benefits that are on the packaging anyway, and go, okay, that looks fine, without really thinking going onto our skin.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is really important what we put on our skin. I think because I had quite sensitive, and also that I already had rosacea, I was, obviously things could make it flare up. So I was more conscious of that anyway. And, after having a baby and breastfeeding, etc., you just become, I think your hormones are all over the place anyway. So, I think it just becomes even more important, or it did for me anyway. And and that's kind of how our journey began as the Dead Sea Co.
And do you find that sort of knowing a little bit about ingredients, did that help you when it came to formulating the products and working out what went in them?
I mean, yes, I had a really strong idea, but obviously that isn't my area of expertise. So we have an amazing female formulator in Jordan who specialises in Dead Sea skincare, and then we also have a manufacturer that specialises in Dead Sea skincare. So whilst obviously it was based on my ideal for quite a simple ingredient list. I wanted it, I wanted all the ingredients to be really effective, work really well together, and really have an impact on the skin, and the hero ingredient to be Dead Sea mud. We obviously then needed that kind of real expertise to make sure that, it was as effective and as possible, and was as skin nourishing and loving as we wanted it to be.
That makes total sense, because I think even if you knew the exact ingredients you wanted to include, how you would turn them into a moisturizer or any other product, that's
exactly.
something different, isn't it?
Yeah, it's you know, you need to study it. It's, you know, that it's a chemical engineer that does all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, as I said, we had the vision and what we really wanted, and then they kind of brought that to life for us.
That's amazing, because it sounds like you were able to give them a really clear brief because you knew exactly what you wanted. You had such a vision. And it's great you're able to find someone to formulate your products in Jordan as well, because I assume that she's really familiar with the mud and the benefits and how best to use it.
That's the thing. You want ingredients that complement each other and work well together, and that's what they could really help us with. And yeah, it's that our hero ingredient for our mask specifically is our mud, and then they've put in you know, we agreed on nourishing oils and then some antioxidants to really give it like being an all-round product where it, you know, really purifies, hydrates, and brightens your skin all at once. So.
Oh, thank you for explaining that. And I'm going to ask what might be a really stupid question. I really hope you don't mind me asking. But are these ingredients easy or difficult to source? So, for example, Dead Sea mud, is that something that's widely available to source? Or did it help that you had, you know, that you're from Jordan and you could perhaps meet people there?
Yes, exactly. So obviously sourcing it in Jordan is, you know, the Dead Sea is on our doorstep there. So, Jordan is known for having really, really great quality Dead Sea mud. So using it from Jordan made a lot of sense. And then we try as much as possible to source as many ingredients locally in Jordan as possible. So for example, we have some pomegranate seed oil in our mask, and that's sourced from women's groups in the north of Jordan who actually harvest those, you know, harvest the seeds themselves. So we try our best to you know, and one of our briefs is obviously really nourishing ingredients. So all our kind of oils are cold pressed, and you know, that's really important to us.
That's amazing. And I'm sorry if that was a stupid question, but it did occur to me that, you know, it might, while I'm sure there's a lot of it, I wasn't sure how easy it was to actually source.
I mean, there's not, I think there's only two companies that extract the Dead Sea mud. So obviously in Jordan and Israel. So being on the Jordan side of things, it's you know, much easier for us.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So I guess having some local knowledge and presumably knowing people there was really helpful.
Yes, absolutely, for sure.
And I'd love to talk about something slightly different, if that's okay. As you mentioned at the beginning, you set up the business with your siblings. Mm-hmm. I would love to know how you found working with them, and obviously go into as much detail as you like, because often people consider maybe starting up the business with a family member or friend. And so any sort of you know, anything from your experience you think would be useful, I think would be really good to hear, like things to consider, maybe things that work well, maybe even things that haven't worked well. As I said, up to you what you want to share with Serina. But I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm going to be honest, it's extremely hard. I think that would be with siblings or a friend, or, you know, anyone you really co-found a business with. It can be really difficult at times, especially because everyone has their own visions and their own ways of working. And it has been difficult for us. I think we've definitely got to a much better place now. I think we're 2.5 years in. I think really defining our roles and responsibilities helped. So at the beginning, we were just kind of, you know, working on it together, which was lovely as well. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily change anything, but, you know, as things progress, and, you know, also both my, at the time, we all had other jobs. So, you know, it started off like that. Now this is my, you know, I work full time, but both my siblings still have other full-time jobs. So we've had to really work around that and really define who does what, how we do it. And I think that is something I would advise people to do, is to have a real clear understanding of what each person is bringing to the table, and how their skills, you know, benefit the business, and how you can work together, and even being a little bit more formal and having like a conflict resolution strategy. I think all of these things are really helpful, because you do need to sometimes fall back on that. You're not always going to have exactly the same ideas and agree ways forward. So I think that is really, really important. And the other thing I'd say for working with family and potentially friends is having that kind of work and personal like balance and separation. It's really easy sometimes for us and me especially to forget, that's my sister or that's my brother, and we have other things in common and other things we want to do and speak to each other about. And we try to keep like family, events and gatherings, maybe just, personal and not kind of bring in the work side, which is really hard as well, because, there's a lot of things that are always pressing we need to talk about. So it's a juggle. And I think that being mindful about it is really important and trying to have as much structure as possible. And that's where we're kind of working towards and getting to as well.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I do think that's really useful. And as you say, I guess having structure, I think with anything, having some kind of structure really helps, doesn't it? And it sounds like
Exactly.
You've all been really thoughtful about how it works, because you're right. I can imagine that it could just take over your life and your relationship, and that
Absolutely.
could become your only topic of conversation almost.
And you don't want that, at the end of the day. I love my siblings and I want to keep that sibling relationship. And so it's difficult, though. I'm not going to lie. It's always difficult to remember, but you just have to work at it.
And is it hard, like if you do have disagreements, is it hard to kind of have a disagreement over something work related and then still maintain your personal relationship?
Absolutely. I think that's the most difficult part of it. I mean, I'm really lucky. Both I have great siblings, and I think everybody's our main, we all think of the business first in our business relationship. And I think that's really helpful, and everyone's really understanding. And I think we manage. But yes, definitely, if things aren't going well and then we've got some, personal family gathering, it's not so easy sometimes to switch out of work mode and get into family mode. But
yeah, that makes sense. But it sounds like you're all doing really well.
We're trying.
So I'd love to switch topics for a moment, if that's okay, because there are so many like fantastic things you're doing and like I've seen that I'd like to talk to you about. I'd love to talk a little bit about your brand ambassador program. Couldn't get my words out there, because that's something quite unique, I think. So I'd love to know a little bit about what it is and how it works, and perhaps also I know this is a big question, anything you've learned from it as well.
Absolutely. So I think, word of mouth is still so incredibly important, and having, that kind of authentic, genuine champions. And so that's what our brand ambassador program is about. We have like an application process where people can apply to be a brand ambassador. And that's really because we want people that really, really believe in the brand, that believe in our products and our philosophy, and that want to champion us and that enjoy using our products. Because I think it's really obvious if someone, is talking about it and is passionate about it, or just trying to sell a product. I think that they're quite different things. And so, yes, we have an application process, and then we are going to start some training for our ambassadors as well, to make sure that they understand, the benefits of Dead Sea minerals and how they help, your skin, and also our kind of more holistic philosophy and how you can incorporate self-care into your daily lives as part of your skincare routine. So that's kind of how it works. And then in terms of the benefits of it, I mean, we get a greater reach, because obviously we have ambassadors that are going out and talking about us and championing our brand, which is fantastic, and also building that rapport with the ambassadors and having that engagement. All of these things really help us, because it builds that genuine connection and people who really do love the brand. And obviously for the ambassadors, the benefits for them is that they it's like an affiliate program, so they get commission as well. So I think it works really well both ways, and it's something that we really enjoy, having those ambassadors and building those connections, and it's a great for our reach and for our brand awareness.
That sounds like it sounds really great, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I don't see that many brands that do it. But I think particularly for a brand like yours, it must be really nice for potential customers to see the impact of your products on real people's skin. Because I think for skincare brands in particular, it can be really hard to kind of think, will that work for me, or is that just marketing?
That's the thing. That's exactly it. And I think that, having more user generated content and people that actually are enjoying our products and use them, I think that that's the best way to spread awareness about the brand and potentially get more customers. So I think it's a great way for us to do that. And I think that, there's obviously a lot of influencers and influencer marketing, but I do really think that people relate more to, seeing real people, not real, I mean, like people, not influencers, as in like just people that are enjoying the skincare and are it's the word of mouth marketing as opposed to, the influencer marketing.
I think there's definitely a difference, because I think with some influencers, you might see them, they're using one brand one week and another brand the next week, and it doesn't feel as genuine. Whereas, and I can't think of a good example now, but there are definitely people online who I know, they must love this particular brand, whether it's clothing or skincare or whatever, because they're talking about this brand all of the time. And I think you kind of, that sticks with you a bit more, I think.
Well, yeah, because they obviously have a genuine connection and it really works for them. And that's what you want. You want to find people who really do enjoy and love your product and use it, and that can spread the word, because that's that will be the best form of marketing rather than influencer marketing.
Definitely. And do you also work with them? I'm just being really curious now. Do you also get feedback from them and things like that? To
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think that's really important to us, is getting any customers' feedback and really developing and refining our products around that feedback, because I think that that's what makes a brand work. We have to be solving problems and actually giving people what they really want.
And it's really nice you're so open to that as well, and to like having that connection with people who are, I presume, coming back to you and saying, oh, this worked for me, but I would prefer that, or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it. So yeah, it's really important to us.
Yeah, I mean, it's so valuable, isn't it? Like you say, getting any kind of feedback is just, so valuable.
I mean, that's the ultimate goal, definitely, is getting as much feedback as possible.
And something else I would love to talk to you about, if that's okay, Serina, is I know that you entered the Adobe UK and Enterprise Nation Small Business Goes Big competition. So let's talk about why you entered, what was involved, and the outcome, if that's okay.
Of course, yeah. So we entered. So the prize was to get a 2-day pop-up shop on Oxford Street. So it's especially for a skincare and wellness brand, actually what we were just talking about, getting that feedback from your customers and seeing people actually interact with your products. I mean, it's really invaluable. So that was we really wanted to be a part of that and have our kind of first taste of being in retail, and obviously on the one of the busiest streets of the UK. So it was a real opportunity for us, and something that we didn't want to pass by. So we applied for it. We had to create a web page using Adobe software, Adobe Express, and then send in a video presentation of why we thought we'd be successful with the pop-up shop. And luckily we were successful, and we got our 2 days on Oxford Street, which was just the most amazing experience. And we had our screens all the way down Oxford Street, the bus screens that have adverts, they had our brand on them, and we had a really big billboard in Leicester Square. It was a real pinch me moment of obviously as a startup, it's such hard work to try and get your brand off the ground, and then to actually be on Oxford Street for the couple of days and see your brand everywhere. It was just fantastic. And it was a really, really insightful experience. Again, going back to speaking to customers, looking at our conversion rate actually there on the shop floor, seeing how people, engaged with our products, what they thought about the packaging, what they thought about the scents, what they thought about the texture of the mud. I mean, there were so many things to talk about and to find out about. And I think it's really, really informed our retail strategy, which we're hopefully, moving ahead with. So
that's amazing. And I didn't want to give away the outcome in the questions, but it's amazing that that's such a big prize, and I think it sounds like a really good opportunity. So have you learned things from that you think, when you look to go into retail, things that you can take away from it?
Yes, absolutely. From how to set, how we want to look and feel, to if we want to give a more kind of experience of our products, how we can bring our products to life a bit better, all of these things until you're kind of in it and see how people are engaging and reacting. It's quite difficult to decide just, from the outside. So yeah, I think it's really informed what we see for the future and how we want to pursue our retail strategy. So
that's exciting. And did you get any support with how to set up the store and run it or anything like that? Or were you completely left to your own devices?
No, they did. They provided a lot of support in terms of, we had a call beforehand with a retail specialist, went through, what works and, what we should aim for and how things should look, not things should look as into the brand, but, what kind of best practices are. So there definitely was a lot of support. It was a really fantastic competition and we met some really great brands as well. And then obviously then we got in there, we planned it all, and then we tweaked things as and when we were there, because as I said, like real life is different from planning, and seeing how people move around and where they went first and how they interacted, it all informed our kind of how we set up and how we will set up in the future.
That's so exciting. And was that the first time that you'd sold your products in that kind of face-to-face environment?
Yes, we'd done a couple of, that was the first pop-up we'd done. We'd had a couple of makers markets, but this was the first pop-up. And yeah, so it was a different experience. And as I said, really gave us an idea of kind of what brick and mortar retail would be like.
Out of interest, are there any differences from how people buy your products online? So I'm thinking skincare and wellness in particular, how they buy online to what they do and in person. I'm just being quite
yeah, I mean the issue with online is you can't touch, feel, smell, and I think that's where specifically for beauty, I mean it is quite an important aspect of the customer journey. It is difficult, as you said before, you don't always know what's going to work well on your skin, but there's other things like, do you like the smell of the product? Do you like the feel of the product? Is the packaging important to you? That all of these things, inform your the customer journey and then whether people will purchase or not. And I do think you have a lot more touch points, obviously, if you're physically being able to see and feel the product rather than just shopping online. And I guess online, that's why the ambassadors and really have an impact as well, because they are talking firsthand and talking about their experience with their particular skin type, and they do talk about how it smells and how they apply it and that kind of stuff. So I think that there is quite a big difference, and that's why you need different you have to try online and bring those kind of experiences to the customer as well.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And I think that, as you say, that's why your brand ambassador program works so well for you, because I think it is skincare is really hard to buy online. I think the only other thing for me that I find hard to buy online, as hard, is candles, because again, you can't.
It's a personal preference. And that's the thing. Everyone's skin is different and everyone has, different preferences for scent and texture, etc. So that's why it is quite difficult online. And I think having a presence in retail is important.
And so is that on your plans for this year?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Oh, that's really exciting. So maybe at some point you'll be able to come back and give us an update on how that's gone.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I'd love to. Yeah.
That's really good. Well, thank you so much for all you shared, Serina. My very last question, and I ask this to all my guests, is what would your number one piece of advice be for other product creators?
I think I'm going to go back to this to customer feedback, to be honest. I think that is the single most important thing, because I think that if you're listening to your customers and you are refining and developing your products around your customers' needs and how you actually add value to their lives, I think that's how you stand out and get that loyal customer base and also create your niche, because obviously, especially with, within skincare and beauty, it's such a saturated industry, you really do have to find your community and find, and find people who love your brand. And I think the way to do that is to create products that actually solve problems and are focused on your customer.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Serina, and thank you for everything you shared.
Thank you so much, Vicky, and thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for listening right to the end of this episode. Do remember that you can get the full back catalogue and lots of free resources on my website, vickyweinberg.com. Please do remember to rate and review this episode if you've enjoyed it, and also share it with a friend who you think might find it useful. Thank you again, and see you next week. If you've been inspired to start a podcast in 2024, I really recommend my podcast host, Captivate. Captivate were my top pick when I started podcasting 4 years ago because of how easy it was for a complete novice like me to get started. I've stuck with them for the last 4 years because Captivate is still really simple to use. They keep adding great new features like the ability to share ads like these, and they've just been really reliable. So when you're ready to start your own podcast, you can use the link in the show notes and get a free 7-day trial with Captivate.